Hello everyone and welcome back to Continental Club. Still not the original three this week. Doogie's turn to go on holiday this time. However, we've got another special treat for you, another great guest, because joining us all the way from Barcelona, Román de Arquer, a journalist for La Liga Lowdown. Román, thank you so much for doing this. How are you? How excited are you for the return of football?
Well, I'm good. I'm very excited, of course. We always miss football when it's gone, and it's good to see Barca back with a very competitive team, if they can, of course, register all the players. So if that finally happens, which I hope it will, then definitely, I think we have a team that can compete for lots of titles this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big question mark over what team they're going to be putting out. We're going to get onto that very shortly, but before we dive into Barcelona and some other subjects today, because we want to look at some of the big transfers that can still happen this window, recommended by you guys at home. We've got Football Daily's resident cooler himself, Michael McCubs, here. We've got a Barcelona journalist to sort of fight your corner with you this week. Mikey, are you excited for that?
Yeah, why not? I'm actually wearing an Inter Milan shirt today, so not really representing. But now I've got a ton of questions really, because I feel like in England we're kind of watching from afar the kind of developments that are happening in Barcelona. So it'll be great to get the perspective of someone on the ground. I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Let's jump straight in, I think, Román, because the situation, I don't remember a window or a period quite like this for a club in terms of trying to register players and raising money, etc. I mean, we've discussed it in a bit of detail. A few weeks ago, we were saying we think Barcelona could be title favourites if they get all their players up, because they really have made some great signings, haven't they? From Kessié, Christensen, 150 million euros spent on Lewandowski, Jules Koundé, Rafinha. But now there's talk that they can't even register these players, along with the guys they've got to sign contract extensions, and Ousmane Dembélé and Sergio Roberto as well. And I guess really, what's your take on the situation? Do you think that selling more of the Barca studios to raise money is the key to the solution here, or do they need to just sell players and renegotiate some of these contracts as we've seen with Piqué, etc.? From your perspective in Barcelona, what on earth is going on?
Well, it's definitely a very strange situation, as you said. I don't think we've seen it before. First of all, we all thought that Barca wouldn't be capable of barely signing any players because, all the losses on the debts they have to pay. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, all these levers have come out, and now Barca are making money and being allowed to at least sign the players, and we have to see whether they can register. But here in Barcelona, I think there isn't that much nervousness as we kind of read from England or from other countries where it seems like Barca is really in a deep hole. Of course they are, of course there's problems, but at the same time the club, and the fans are kind of calm in that sense, because I do think that at the end of the day, Barca will be capable of registering the players. Whether it's this first match day or the second, or before the end of August, when the transfer market closes, I don't know. But I do think they'll manage like they did in the winter transfer market, where people were saying Ferran Torres is coming in and all these other guys, and how are they going to register them? In the end, they managed to do so, and I think they are. But the key here is not as much, I think, agreeing to more levers, but to getting rid of a player or a few players like Frenkie de Jong in this case, whose salary is very high, and it would really relieve the club in that sense. And of course, new levers do help, but as a matter of fact, they're saying that this fourth lever might not even be enough. They'd have raised about 800 million euros if they finally close it, but that apparently just might not work, because also there's this dodgy agreement, we could say, between Sixth Street and Barcelona in terms of the TV rights, where they sold them for a total of around 600 million euros, but apparently La Liga are saying that 150 million of those euros don't really count, because apparently Barca put them into a subsidiary company they made with Sixth Street. So it's a complicated thing, which isn't illegal, but it's complicating things. So in this sense, if they really manage to get rid of players like Frenkie de Jong and Memphis Depay, and at the same time they bring down contracts from Busquets and Piqué, I think that would definitely solve the problem and would be the easier way, rather than going for more levers, which of course compromises future income.
Well, we've seen a few other transfers potentially in the cards. Alex Collada's interested, or Celtic are certainly interested in him at the moment. We've seen Memphis Depay, we'll discuss him a bit later. Nico Gonzalez closing on a loan move to Valencia. I really like that move for Nico Gonzalez. I think it didn't look like he was going to get much game time at all this season. And I think Valencia is a great place for him to go and really cut his teeth and get some more minutes in La Liga this season. But I mean, do you feel slightly sorry for players like Martin Braithwaite? We've seen them booed in recent weeks. Do you feel like there's an unnecessary pressure from the Barcelona fans on these players to take reduced contracts when really it's not their fault that you were handed them in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I've always complained quite a bit about our fan base here because it's very critical and it's very easily manipulated by what the media can share. And maybe it's information that's been given directly from the club, I don't know, but like saying that Martin doesn't want to bring down his salary or Frankie, etc. I mean, we don't really know if this information is 100% reliable because a lot of times the club is just giving the media what they want the media to say, you know. So in that sense, I think it's a bit unfair to go at the players. Also, I do think the players should sometimes speak up a bit more and explain their situation so fans are more understanding. But it's true that here at Barca, they're too critical, and the situation with Braithwaite, I think, was very unfair. I mean, it's true that apparently Braithwaite has a lot of money outside of football. He's a very good entrepreneur and all that, but that doesn't mean that he has to, you know, give up his contract or decide to go. You know, so I can understand the player's point of view, and I think the fans have to be more understanding in that sense. But a lot of fans here in Barca are like the top or most important thing is the club. So they consider that the players have to adapt to the club situation because, you know, Barca is ahead of everything else. So it's a bit complicated, and we're going to see this. We've seen this for a long time where Barca fans boo players and criticize them for many different reasons, and we're going to continue seeing this, unfortunately. And poor Braithwaite had to experience it, and we'll see in the first match day with Frankie de Jong if he plays, if he gets booed or what happens there.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I do feel sorry for these players, but I mean, what do you make of the whole situation in La Liga in general? Because this isn't actually just a Barcelona problem. I think people need to remember this sometimes. We're seeing Real Betis really struggling to register players. It looks like they were going for Houssam Aouar all summer. Now Nottingham Forest potentially coming in to steal that kind of move away because they need to sell in order to register their new signings, etc. Almeria are really struggling as well. We're not sure what team they're going to field for their opening clash against Real Madrid. I mean, do you think this is a wider La Liga issue at the moment, which does Javier Tebas and perhaps the powers that be, do they need to potentially look at ways of helping these clubs get through these situations?
Well, I mean, I do think La Liga is quite strict in terms of how clubs have to keep their books, you know, financially and all that. And they are giving them a few things to make it easier. For example, like all the COVID impact they've allowed for the next 5 seasons to divide the debt they owe in that sense among those 5 seasons to make it a bit easier on the clubs. But it's still not great. And in terms of Barcelona, for example, I do think they're kind of pressing them a lot because, for example, they didn't accept that CVC deal that Tebas himself was in charge of organizing, you know, and he really wanted clubs like Barca and Real Madrid to join it, and the fact that they didn't want to join and the fact that they want to create a Super League and all that has really generated this uncomfortable situation between Barcelona and La Liga. So, I mean, in that sense, I don't think they're giving them any ease or any like facilidades, as we say in Spanish, to kind of manage to fix the situation, you know. So in that sense, La Liga is being too strict in my opinion. But it's true that also other clubs have been affected by this, but I think it's mostly because of COVID, you know. They're still recovering from this, and teams like Betis, even Sevilla, Almeria, as you mentioned, have a lower salary cap for this season, and so they have to kind of struggle and fix this by, you know, renewing players or selling players. So it's a bit complicated, but at the same time, I don't see it in a bad way because it's good that the league, you know, is strict in this sense and avoids clubs going into really deep financial situations. Even though they didn't do that with Barcelona when Bartomeu was in charge, they kind of let them do their thing, and now look where we found ourselves. So I value that La Liga is strict, but if they're going to do it, they have to do it properly and with all the clubs, you know, not just with some clubs a bit stricter than others.
Well, I was going to ask, because I think that leads us on to kind of Barcelona's transfer business in general. Obviously, like La Liga have had these strict controls in place for a while, and I think that's a big issue in itself. But I mean, obviously we've seen, you know, Bernardo Silva is, you know, currently, you know, very much in the spotlight in terms of going to Barcelona. This is a suggestion that's come from @Kula HD, and this is a deal that could end up costing Barcelona upwards of 55 million euros or more even. I saw even like 80 million was being talked about, although I think I'm not sure if the fee's been agreed lower than that now. But I just kind of wanted to get your perspective on that, because obviously Barcelona have been in a financial crisis for well over 2 years now. What is the kind of perspective in Barcelona? Because I feel like when I've been reading about it and listening to people, there's this kind of idea that, first of all, Barcelona either need to spend big now or kind of fade into irrelevance because, I don't know, they won't qualify for the Champions League or whatever. There's this idea that if Barcelona don't finish, don't play in the Champions League, that suddenly they'll become irrelevant. And then there's this kind of this other kind of thing of like, players are being pressured to lower their salaries on contracts that they were given by the club because the club is in kind of financial difficulty, but then the club is going out and spending 45 million euros on a 34-year-old Robert Lewandowski. So like from my perspective at least, there seems to be a bit of a clash there, and I feel like from outside of Barcelona that's the kind of feeling. I don't know what are people's thoughts on, say, like Laporta, because from my perspective it feels like even though he kind of promised a change of direction from Bartomeu, I feel like he hasn't learned from the mistakes of that regime.
Yeah, well, as you said, in the end there were two options, as you said, go into kind of irrelevance and stay low for a little bit and try and recover slowly little by little and, use the youth players, don't spend too much money, etc. Or go in, sign all these levers and make a lot of money and try to have a big impact immediately and earn a lot of money in one go. So, I mean, in a way, it is a very risky option because you are putting into risk your future income, as we said before, because of course we're giving 25% of this, 25% of that. That's a lot of money that Barca will be generating along the years that they won't be able to receive. But I mean, I think Barca fans kind of want the team to stay competitive. They don't really like the idea of going into that irrelevance you were mentioning. And I mean, Laporta kind of has the same opinion, so in a way, in Barcelona, the fans are quite happy with this decision because also it's hard to know what the future holds. Of course, Barca fans might not be as aware of the critical situation we're going through, in the sense that this club could disappear or it could have to be sold to some sort of multi-millionaire from wherever. So I mean, that could of course solve our problems easily, but we're very dreamy in the sense that we want to stay as owners of the club, because Barcelona, as you may know, is owned by the fans, by the socios. So that's something that the Laporta has always said that he wants to maintain and doesn't want to change. And of course, it's going to be difficult, but it's definitely a risky bet. I can understand your concerns, and I can understand that people criticize this way of doing things. I mean, I'm on Twitter and I follow a lot of different people who have been criticizing really harshly towards Laporta because he's made a very risky bet in this sense. But I mean, if it works and if the team wins titles and it stays competitive and it becomes very relevant again worldwide, I mean, Barca is a team that can generate a lot and is a very global brand, at the same time. So, I mean, it's hard to say. In my opinion, I don't find it bad that they've signed a few levers, but I don't like the idea of giving more and more levers, away, because that's of course future income. TV rights, okay, maybe a bit of this from Barca Corporate or Barca Studios, alright, but don't take it further from there, because I think that'll be just a bit too much. Try and, as I said before, maybe sell a player or two, open up the salary cap space in a more reasonable way, and keep growing from there on.
Yeah, it's a fascinating kind of period that we're entering with Barcelona right now. But in terms of the Bernardo Silva signing, if we just sort of park the issues that potentially they're facing as a signing in general, do you think that Bernardo Silva is exactly the kind of player that the club are looking for at the moment? Because I mean, he would be taking minutes from Pedri or Gavi potentially, or filling in there. They've got a number of midfield options in there, with Franck Kessié joining too. But I mean, Bernardo Silva, undeniably a great player, and it's interesting what you say about the relevance of Barcelona. I think the fact we've seen so many big players pushing for moves there still this summer just shows that eternal the gravitas which the club really has. I mean, but what do you make of Bernardo Silva as a potential Barcelona signing, Roman?
Well, I mean, he's definitely quality. I mean, we've all seen that. We've all seen him play. He's really important in Manchester City. I think he could be a great signing for the club, but I think only if Frankie de Jong leaves, because I don't think it makes sense to have So many players, as you said, in midfield. There's many options: Pedri, Gavi, Kessie, Pablo Torre, who's a youngster who could have an opportunity there, Busquets, etc., etc. So I mean, if Frenkie de Jong finally leaves to Chelsea, United, or wherever, then I do think it kind of makes sense to bring an experienced player like Bernardo Silva in that midfield, because in the end, Gavi and Pedri are pretty young, and I think Bernardo Silva maybe provides a bit more going forward than maybe Pedri or Gavi do at the moment, even though they have a lot of progression ahead and they're going to improve in that sense for sure. But I do think that Bernardo Silva isn't a must. I mean, if they don't sign him, I think we'll still have had a fantastic transfer market and we still have a great squad. But if Frenkie de Jong leaves and they want to bring in Bernardo Silva, I mean, I won't complain, because he's definitely a very, very good addition and will help us in La Liga and, of course, in the Champions League.
Yeah. Mikey, are you surprised that Bernardo Silva wants to leave at this point? I mean, he came out the other day and he said that Manchester City players don't get the credit they deserve for what they do. And I respect that opinion in many ways. But I mean, last season he was the fourth most used player in the Blues squad, 35 appearances in the Premier League, 2,861 minutes. I mean, considering his place was never certain every season at City, we've finally seen him really grab the spotlight in that midfield. Are you surprised that now is the time that he's decided to move on?
Potentially, I kind of feel like maybe he's just always wanted to move on at some point. You know, I mean, he's 20? Is he coming on to 28 now?
28.
Just turned 28. So I mean, he's entering that stage of his career where, you know, he's got one or at the most two big moves left in him. It's clear that he's always wanted to play in La Liga as well. Obviously, Atletico Madrid with the club that he was, you know, mooted to go to last summer didn't end up happening, but it looked pretty nailed on at one point. So yeah, I'm not overly surprised. I think, yeah, he was amazing in the Premier League last season, arguably the best midfielder in the Premier League last season. But I don't know whether that necessarily is in his thinking. Do I think it's the right thing for him to want? I'm not sure, because I still look at like a player like Bernardo Silva and I kind of think, is that the player that Barcelona needs? And to be honest, I think with a lot of Barcelona's attacking signings this summer, I've been a little bit confused. I think the defensive signings have been brilliant, but like Rafinha, I think can be a real success at Barcelona, but his best position is on the right, which is also Ousmane Dembele's position. Lewandowski, obviously, you know, one of the greatest strikers of all time, but like Barcelona already had Aubameyang in that position. Will he, you know, score 20 more goals than Aubameyang would? I'm not so sure as well. Like for me, like again with Bernardo, like his best position in attack is on the right, and then in the midfield he'd be competing, I guess, with Gavi and Pedri. He's obviously not a defensive midfielder. Kind of Kessie, I guess, is going to have to take up that kind of mantle with Busquets if Frenkie de Jong leaves. He's not, you know, he's a very different player from Frenkie if you're thinking about kind of one leaving and one coming in. So yeah, at that price at least, because, you know, Barca are having to spend so much money on these players. And like, I think he is, you know, he's worth that at least to Man City, but I don't know whether, I feel like Barcelona could find someone else for cheaper, someone maybe younger, to bolster that midfield if they really want to. That's how I feel about him.
All right, well, if we move on to some of the other transfers that you guys recommended, so the big, massive moves that could happen, because I think Bernardo Silva would be a massive move to Barcelona, and I think Man City have been selling quite cheap recently, and I really don't think they should make that mistake with Bernardo Silva this time. Someone else who could be on the move fairly cheap, Fabián Ruiz to PSG. This comes in from @Blazers Stakes. L'Equipe are reporting that PSG are close to signing the Napoli star for about 25 million euros. The midfielder, he's only got 1 year left on his contract now. He's rejected a new deal at Napoli in a sort of similar vein to Kalidou Koulibaly. Real Madrid apparently wanted him next year on a free, but he's 26 years old, and Luis Campos has clearly eyed him up and has gone in hard for him this summer. He's a great deep line playmaker. I love Fabián Ruiz. He scored 7 and assisted 4 last season, which is his most productive year in Serie A. He was at Real Betis beforehand as well. A deep line playmaker operating next to Anguissa. The thing that confuses me about this one is they've just spent 41 million euros on Vitinha. to play essentially a similar role in that midfield. Because if we saw the way that Galtier lined up PSG in that opening clash against Clermont, it was in that 3-4-3, and I thought they looked excellent. And they had Verratti in the holding position in midfield, and Vitinha next door to him. Fabián Ruiz would be coming in there. They've got loads of other players in that position too. They've signed Renato Sanchez, still got Draxler, Herrera, Paredes. Obviously, these players, some of these players can be upgraded. Danilo Pereira, Idrissa Gueye looks like he might be on his way to Everton. We've seen Gini Wijnaldum on the move too. But I mean, McCubbin, what do you think this is the right move for Fabián Ruiz, or should he be going somewhere where he's a guaranteed starter, or is this just PSG stockpiling ahead of a busy campaign?
Well, weirdly, I feel like Fabián Ruiz is the kind of profile of midfielder that Barcelona would be more suited to going for than Bernardo, just because he is a bit more deep-lying, he's a passer. They've been interested in him in the past. He's a lot cheaper now than he used to be. But yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is with PSG is that they always want to have a lot of depth, don't they? And Fabián Ruiz really does give them a lot of depth in the centre of the park. I think Renato Sanchez at 15 million is a decent pickup, but he can't stay fit all season. He'll probably play half a season at most, won't he, for them? And that's something that I think Luis Campos will have thought about when going for him, having signed him for Lille. What was it, 3 years ago now? So yeah, I still think PSG's ultimate thing is to win the Champions League, right? And they've always been going kind of balls to the walls in the transfer markets in terms of securing these kind of players. Or bolstering their squad in a really kind of expansive way. And I feel like Ruiz is one of the more smart options in that sense. Like it's not like when they were, throwing everything at the forward line last summer. Like it does still make sense having someone like that in the midfield in Christophe Galtier's system, I think. Even if that is, partly because Marco Verratti has had injury problems in the past. And I think he can perform a similar function, obviously not to quite as high a level, I don't think, as Verratti. I think Verratti is just, a much more well-rounded midfielder, but I think Fabián Ruiz has a lot of the same qualities as him. And I think also they could probably complement each other quite well in a double pivot if needs be. Obviously, Vitinha's been really impressive, like you say, Henry, in the kind of early weeks, in pre-season and at the start of the Liga campaign. So yeah, I actually quite like it. Like at that price point as well. I'm surprised that they didn't come. That there wasn't more competition for him. If I'm honest, at that price, I was expecting to see Barcelona. I know Real Madrid were linked with him, but they didn't seem to push that hard for him. Obviously, the Tchouameni deal, I imagine had a lot to do with that. But yeah, I'm quite surprised that PSG didn't face that much competition.
I agree. I think he's brilliant for that price point. We're seeing some great bargains this year, I think, across Europe so far. And a big loss for Napoli again. But, I mean, if we go on to Napoli quickly, this comes from at Billy Densham. Their signings that they're looking to make, it looks like they've finally woken up after quite a difficult summer. I mean, Kavica Kvaratskhelia, the Georgian winger, looks amazing. I've been watching clips of him. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Don't know too much about Kim Min-jae coming in at centre-half, but they've clearly done their scouting on him at Fenerbahce. But some of the names they're being heavily linked with at the moment, Nahit Hernandez from Cagliari, that could be about 13 million euros. We've been talking about him for a while now, haven't we? Sort of tenacious, all-action midfielder, can kind of do everything. Is he going to replace the output of Fabián Ruiz? No, he's not. He's not an attacking guy in the same vein. Got 2 assists last season, but he is that kind of aggressive ball winner in the centre of midfield, which perhaps they're looking for alongside Anguissa to really shore up in front of that defence. But the other signings which they've been linked with, I think, are amazing. Giacomo Raspadori, the Sassuolo sporting director, Giovanni Carnevali, he's admitted a deal is close with the player going to Naples. He's desperate to go, apparently. 10 goals and 4 assists last season for Sassuolo, 2.4 shots per 90. He's still only 22. I mean, if you're going to lose Insigne and Mertens, I think bringing someone like him in would be an amazing addition for 30 million euros as well. So Sassuolo really getting raided for that attacking talent this season, although Berardi doesn't seem to be going anywhere just yet. I'm a big fan of the Raspadori move, and also the Giovanni Simeone deal. Looks like they're closing in on him from Hellas Verona, initially on loan with sort of another 12 million euros next season. The deal looks to be conditional on Andrea Petagna going to Monza, who are really going for it in the summer market, aren't they? But 17 goals, 5 assists last season. Did score a lot of braces, to be fair. I think he only got 5 goals in 2022, which came in 3 matches. But lots of shots, hits the target often, scores goals. I think if they're just going to throw some bodies at that forward line, they're doing a great job. I mean, which of those do you like, McCubs? Which one excites you the most out of that three?
I mean, I really like all of them. I think I've always been a big fan of Nandez. I think his versatility will be really useful to Spalletti at Napoli. Like, I wonder where he played all over, didn't he, at Cagliari? So it'll be interesting to see where he's deployed. Probably in central midfield, but it'll be cool to see him kind of shifted around a little bit in that system. Obviously, Raspadori, I think, is the biggest star of the lot, isn't he? Obviously, at his age and what he's kind of achieved so far in Serie A. But actually, I kind of think Simeone, from a practical level, is really a really important player to get over the line. I think Patagna, unfortunately, it's just never really happened for him at Napoli. Although I think he is a solid Serie A striker. But Simeone, I think, will take a lot of pressure off, or at least take a lot of some of the reliance at least off Osimhen, because I think that's an issue for Napoli, having lost like Mertens and Insigne, is the fact that Osimhen, like he's missed at least a month or two of the in each season since he's been at Napoli, and I think having a proven goal scorer who can step in his place when that happens is going to be really important for them, because I think at the moment their chances of making the top four in Serie A, well, at least until these signings were kind of being mooted, we're looking quite slim, I think. Roma have obviously had a great summer, and look, I think, more favourite to take that fourth spot. So I think a signing like Simeone could make all the difference in that sense.
Yeah, Napoli making some really good forward additions to that line after quite a worrying few months. But I mean, there's plenty of strikers on the move elsewhere. Some massive deals that could be happening, and I guess, Roman, we can bring you back in at this point, because the next two suggestions we've had come in are Aubameyang to Chelsea from @BlazerStakes and Memphis Depay to Juventus from @Sean15McKenzie, regular contributor. What do you make of what's happened to Aubameyang? To start with Aubameyang, because obviously came there in January, did really well, didn't he? Scored 11 goals or so in 17 La Liga appearances. Just seemed to focus on just being that out-and-out striker and attack, and looked quite happy there. Lewandowski's come in, usurped him, taken Depay's shirt number. First of all, I think a move to Chelsea would be a great move, but do you feel slightly sorry for Depay and Aubameyang in the sense that their journey could be over sort of before it's even begun at Barcelona?
Yeah, for sure, because first of all, Memphis came in first, and at the start of the season, he was the guy who was basically leading the team forward, and he was a key player for us. Of course, as the games went on, he lost a bit of that traction, and he got injured and all that kind of stuff, which didn't help. And then Xavi coming on board, he wasn't as convinced about playing him at the end. But I mean, Memphis was very useful for us, and in this preseason, he's looked really sharp, to be honest. So I mean, if he stayed in the end, I wouldn't mind. But on the other hand, you do have Aubameyang, as you said, who came on in the winter transfer market. He was great, despite that reputation at Arsenal. Some were saying that he was really a bad player to have in the squad, but honestly, he integrated really well, and he was playing great football, scoring goals. And if we can keep him, I'd honestly do it, because I was quite surprised to see that he's been considered as a player that could leave from Barcelona. But I honestly don't think Barca are going to let both players go, either Memphis or Aubameyang, because we do need a replacement for Lewandowski. Let's not forget he's 33, 34 years old already, and he could get injured despite having being in great physical shape, So I mean, Aubameyang, the bad thing is that in the preseason, he's played quite a lot on the wing, which I honestly am not so convinced about. So it's true that he's possibly going to have to spend more time on the bench than last season, of course. So I mean, it depends on him, because he would fit Chelsea fantastically, as you said. I think he would be a great addition for them. But if we can have him as a backup player, that's quality you have on the bench to score goals when Lewandowski has a bad day, So hopefully, I'd rather keep Aubameyang probably, even though I don't mind Memphis. Honestly, has been a great player too.
I think Juventus need Memphis and Chelsea need Aubameyang. I think these are both moves that make perfect sense. Looking at Juventus, the only strikers they have, really, out-and-out strikers, are Vlahovic and Moise Kean, and I'm not expecting Kane to touch a ball next season in many ways. I mean, which one do you think is the more important transfer that should get over the line?
Although Chelsea fans don't seem to be that hot on it, I kind of think Aubameyang to Chelsea just because they don't have really an experienced, recognised centre-forward, do they? I know Kai Havertz can be really effective in that centre-forward role. He brings other players into the game. He's a very good technical operator, but I think having a Premier League proven goal scorer would be really useful to them. And I know Aubameyang, his game did drop a little bit towards his final days at Arsenal, but I think in a team, obviously linking back up with Thomas Tuchel as well, who he got on really well with at Borussia Dortmund. It was interesting hearing your perspective on that, Román, because I think he had a bit of an unfair reputation when he left Arsenal. I think I think there have always been difficulties to him, but I think in general he seems like a really nice guy and a really easy guy to get along with. You very rarely don't see him smiling. I think he had a really good relationship with coaches, and I think even Arteta. I think they probably got on fine, but it was just there were just a few incidents that meant that Arteta didn't really have a choice but to punish him in that sense. I like Aubameyang to Chelsea. I think I see where you're coming from, Henry, with Depay to Juve, but again I kind of feel like Depay needs to be the starting man wherever he goes, and he followed that dream to go to Barcelona and it hasn't worked out. I think that's sad for him, especially given that he wasn't trusted towards the end of the season. But I think from Memphis's perspective, I think he needs to be starting somewhere, and I think Juventus, in that sense, is maybe a little bit of a weird fit. But at the same time, with Juve, I'm not sure what the situation is with Morata, but if they can't get that deal over the line, I've not actually been keeping up to date with that one. Then they do need another attacker in there, and maybe we could see some sort of kind of partnership take hold if it was Depay with Vlahovic, because I thought Morata and Vlahovic as a pairing, especially with kind of Dybala floating around towards the end of last season, looks really, really exciting. I think it kind of depends where Allegri wants to go with this team in terms of the shape and stuff. But I'm happy they've got their left side sorted at least a little bit with the signing of Filip Kostic. I feel like that's where they really needed to strengthen. I think Depay would be all right for Juve, but I think Aubameyang to Chelsea feels like a more vital move to me.
Yeah, I can already see that insufferable social media from Paul Pogba and Depay as a link out there back at Juventus. But I completely agree with you. If they can't get Morata, then I think they should go in for him. And as you said, they've made some really smart signings this summer, Juventus. Sort of the Juventus of old in terms of the business that they're doing, Bremer, etc., making the most of that delict cash, which they've got in. All right, quickly, the last one. This was sent in by Joe Tomlinson. He's asked us to say one positive thing about Adrien Rabiot's move to Manchester United. We'll give it a go. I actually don't mind this move at all. I kind of borrowed off Euro Expert his analysis that I saw. Actually started 28 times for Juve last season, 4 appearances off the bench. He's the 5th most used player in the squad, which shows that he is kind of a valuable asset, where he's been a regular in the French side too. And his problem is he's mainly pushed out to the left a lot, and I think it really skews his numbers because he's sort of playing 2 positions. But he works incredibly hard, coming in 15th from all of Italy for pressures per 90 last season, 72% tackle success rate, 62% dribble rate. He's quite tall as well, 2.1 aerial wins, and he's really comfortable in tight spaces. He's quite good on the ball, which I think is maybe overlooked sometimes. And I don't know, maybe compared to McTominay and Fred, he is a good body to get in. It's just that kind of reputation. I mean, Roman, in terms of Rabiot, does his reputation in Spain kind of land as badly as perhaps it does in the UK and the rest of Europe?
I mean, I think it's pretty similar, to be honest. But at the same time, he's a quality player. He's a very good player in his position, and I think he could be very useful for Manchester United. But it is true at the same time that it doesn't feel like he will be the solution. He might improve maybe Fred, because I'm honestly not a big fan of Fred, to be honest. He's kind of unreliable midfielder in that sense. But I mean, if you bring in Rabiot, okay, it could be interesting. But as I said, it won't solve their future. I mean, they've had so many profiles with Bruno, with Eriksen, all those midfielders coming in, Andre Herrera in the past, Matic, etc. But none of them seem to fit, and I don't see Rabiot being the right piece. But as we all know, Manchester's problems go farther away than the midfield, of course.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, McCubs, you're a United fan. What's your thoughts? 17 million euros plus the drama. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all reliant on the drama, isn't it? Yeah, I agree. He doesn't solve the midfield problems, but he could he could at least bring a bit of composure in that sense. He is he's definitely a better technical player than Scott McTominay. I think that would be the kind of role that he'd be playing, which I don't know whether that's necessarily his role. I know we have seen him kind of. I think in his first season at Juve, we saw him used in a more kind of driving midfield role, which he looked quite good in at points. So maybe that's what Erik ten Hag has in mind. But yeah, he's not going to transform United's fortunes in the centre of the park. But I think it's reliant on him kind of striking up a good relationship with Ten Hag. Not having a stinker in the first couple of games, because at United that can really be sometimes be the be all and end all, especially in a system which is still looking quite dysfunctional at the moment. So yeah, it's a risk, isn't it? It's a risk.
Yeah,
but at 17 million euros, it's a risk that Man United can afford to make. However, I mean, it's largely depends on what happens behind the scenes, because I think United's main problem really, at least among the players, has been the dressing room culture in the last couple of years, and bringing in a character like Rabiot, there's the chance that it could disrupt it. So I think that would be my main worry.
All right, well, there you go, Joe Tomlinson. You got the best of both worlds on that response. All right, that's it for our main section. Let's quickly move on to our big match preview. All right, so the rest of Europe is kicking off this weekend. We had Germany and France, last week? This week we're going to be focusing on Spain and Italy. Some big games. Real Madrid opened their title defence away at Almeria. Italy, Juventus are hosting Sassuolo, and Inter travel to Lecce. And then if you're looking for some football tonight, obviously coming out on Friday, check out Freiburg versus Dortmund, I think, over in the Bundesliga. But yeah, we're going to start with an interesting clash between two sides that I would probably say last season didn't go quite as they'd hoped. Getafe and Atletico Madrid. This is on Monday at 6:30 UK time in the evening. I mean, Román, Getafe, serious flirt of relegation last season. I mean, they all had to push. I think 38 points got Granada relegated, which is tough. It is really tough. But I mean, and they haven't had the best pre-season either. They beat Preston and they've lost to a string of sort of lower sides in Spain. Quique Sanchez-Flores in the helm. Made some decent additions, I think. Certainly bringing in Mayoral. I think that's an unbelievable signing. What do you make of Getafe? And can you see them getting anywhere close to sort of that great period which they enjoyed a few years ago?
Honestly, I think that Euro Getafe, we could say, is a bit far off still at the moment. Their main problem last season was the start. They had an awful start to the season. They went really down to the bottom, and then Quique Sanchez-Flores came on and he really picked up the team. They almost managed to get up there to mid-table, and right towards the end they lost a bit of that momentum they had, and they struggled right until the end. But I mean, with Quique, the team looked much better than the previous manager that season, so I definitely think that he can build on that this season. And as you said, some very interesting additions this season have come in. Luis Milla, who was fantastic for Granada despite them going down to Segunda División. I think Luis Milla is a quality player that can definitely play and provide a lot to Getafe. And of course, Domingos Duarte, who also came to Granada. He was one of the best defenders when Granada were also fighting for Europe a couple of seasons ago. So I mean, those two guys for me are very important. Then you have Portu, who struggled a bit maybe at Real Sociedad, but he's definitely going to provide a lot down the right wing. And Mayoral, who was there last season loaned for a while, he looked pretty decent, so I think he can also build on that. So overall, I think the squad looks good, despite the preseason, as you mentioned, has been very poor. But preseasons can be tricky, so I wouldn't take too much of that, and I'd wait and see how they play. And against Atletico Madrid, I think it will be a tie game. I don't expect Atletico to come rampaging, and winning by 3 or 4 goals. I mean, I think Getafe will have their opportunities, and it should be a tight one, in my opinion.
All right, and McCubs, what do you make of Atletico Madrid? Because Pat put them in a team he reckons is going to be one of the most disappointing this season. I don't think it's looking as bad as people perhaps suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had Jack Collins on last week, and he was saying that Atleti are kind of right where they need to be. No one's predicting them to win the league. Everyone's going a little bit quiet about them. and I feel like that's maybe kind of the general feeling around the club, is that there's not as much pressure on them this season. They obviously had a really big transfer window last summer, and I guess the hope will be that some of those players who perhaps didn't have as big an impact as they would have liked last season, namely someone like Rodrigo de Paul, might be a bit more settled now. Simeone might kind of has a few more ideas about how to use these players. I think Nahuel Molina is a huge signing from Udinese at 20 million euros. I think that's one of the best signings in all of La Liga this summer. They got that kind of well-experienced attacking fullback. Scored 7 and assisted 2 last season in Serie A. Creates tons of chances, a really good crosser of the ball as well. So essentially they've got that kind of guy to succeed Kieran Trippier, who was so important to them when he was on the field, wasn't he, after he moved from Spurs. So I think that's really big for them. Otherwise the transfer, their transfers haven't been hugely massive. Like Axel Witsel coming in, he offers a lot of experience, but he's pretty old now. He doesn't have the legs that he used to. Was pretty poor in his last couple of seasons at Borussia Dortmund. But is a classic destroyer in the kind of Simeone mould. So I think he'll have a role to play. And I think the big pressure really this season is on Joao Felix. I think he needs to really step up and become that 15 plus goal striker that Atleti have kind of been crying out for in the last few years, at least in terms of their younger kind of their younger participants in the forward line. So I think it's a big season for Felix. I think they'll probably just finish third again, to be honest. I think the thing is with La Liga is that and I feel like this goes back to the kind of Barcelona thing as well. I don't think you don't have to have a classic season to finish in the top 3, I don't think, in La Liga these days, because I think that the competition for top 4 isn't that big. I think Betis are going to give Sevilla a really good go this season for 4th spot, but I don't realistically see any other clubs really challenging them. And I just think Atleti's squad is still better. It's still comfortably the 3rd best squad in La Liga. So I think they'll probably be okay. And I think they'll have a pretty solid campaign. And I guess 3rd place in a good run in Europe, I think will be successful for Simeone.
Absolutely. And in this game, McCubs, what are you going for?
In this game, I'll go 2-1 Atleti.
2-1 Atleti. Roman?
I like that 2-1. I'll take it too.
Oh,
yeah,
right. Okay.
Nice.
I'll go 1-0. I think it's got 1-0 written all over it to Atletico Madrid. All right, quickly, move over to Milan versus Udinese. That's on Saturday at 5:30 UK time. McCubs, Milan obviously brought in Charles de Ketelaere for 32 million. We're super excited to see that. Has the rest of their business been enough to maybe sustain a title challenge? Obviously, the summer's not over. Linked with Grilic, Lokonga, Fofana for centre midfield. Could get Franck Kessié back if he's not registered. Who knows? But do you think they've done enough to maybe defend their title?
I mean, they'll give it a go, won't they? I said last week, I think Inter are my favourites for Serie A. I expect them to come back and take the title back off Milan, but yeah, I mean it's tough, isn't it? I think Milan have operated under fairly strict spending policy in the last few years, and it's been really successful for them because they've had a massive hit rate, and I think Charles de Ketelaere looks like a really hot prospect. I know you're a big fan of him, Henry. 32 million euros is quite a lot for them to spend, but he is one of the top prospects in Europe, isn't he? And his versatility will be really useful. I'd be really excited, to be honest, to see them just start him at centre forward, because I think he has the physicality to really thrive in Serie A as a centre forward. But obviously Divock Origi's come in as well. So I think in terms of them addressing that area, I think they've been really good. But it's just that right wing position that they haven't really filled. I know Junior Messias is has he signed on a permanent now, or has he extended that loan that he had? Florenzi as well, good depth at right back, securing him on a permanent. But yeah, I think a lot depends on whether they can get Ziyech in, because I think he'd be a great addition on the right. But as it stands, I'm not I still just think Inter with Lukaku back just have more going forward. and I think that would prove the difference, especially given how close they were last season. So yeah, I think it's pretty vital that they sort that right wing position. In this game, apparently Tonali's out with injury, along with obviously Ibrahimovic is out for ages. We've seen Tonali attracting interest from Arsenal this week, so that's a bit of a worry. But yeah, I think they'll comfortably beat Udinese in this game. But yeah, I think as the season goes on, I still feel like that Inter squad is stronger.
Well, you say that about Udinese. They've got a pretty good record against AC Milan. I think they've drawn against them more than any other side. That's what I was reading. They've only lost. Yeah, so, and I think their last few meetings have ended in draws as well. Udinese had a good season last year, ended up in 12th. I'm just worried. They've changed manager. They've got in a guy called Andrea Sotil, who's in his 13th job already at the age of 48, and he's only lasted more than 39 games at a club twice. And this is by far the biggest job he's ever been given, and I'm just slightly worried with the Pozzos in control of Udinese that he's not going to extend that run much longer. I'm backing AC Milan to win this one and end their drawing streak against Udinese. I'm going for 2-0. Roman, what are you going for?
I'll go for 2-1.
2-1. McCubs?
I'll go for 3-1. Why not?
All right. Different scores all round. Remember, guys, play along at home. Please do. Our final game, Barcelona versus Rayo Vallecano. That's on Saturday at 8 p.m. UK time. We've talked about Barca a lot, so we'll kind of park it there. Interesting, though, Roman, I was reading against Rayo Vallecano. They obviously lost both matches 1-0 last season, and only once have they lost 3 in a row against an opponent without scoring in their top-flight history, doing so against Real Madrid in 1953. So Rayo Vallecano have the chance to make a bit of history here. But what do you make of Rayo's summer? What do you make of their sort of transfer business? And perhaps, where are they at as a club right now? Because they had a pretty horrible 2022.
Yeah, I mean, they started so well last season in La Liga. They were one of the surprises. I think, in fact, they had one of the best home records in Europe towards the beginning of last season, but then there came 2022 and they just couldn't stop losing, and it's as if all the magic had kind of faded away, you know. So it was a bit unfortunate, but they still managed to save themselves, of course, because they'd really built up a really good cushion that season. And I'm not sure if they can keep up, you know, this season. They haven't really made too many quality signings. I mean, Lejeune is an interesting midfielder. Diego Lopez is an experienced goalkeeper that definitely will help them because Dimitrievski before wasn't too reliable, and then they got Sergio Camello on loan from Atletico Madrid, who's a good prospect, as well as Salvi Sanchez from Cádiz. So I mean, a few interesting signings, but not great, I could say, if you want to really fight to stay comfortable in La Liga. I think they might need a bit more there in that sense, but definitely, I mean, Rayo Vallecano play really good football. They're very entertaining to watch. They like to go forward a lot, so if you want to check them out and you don't watch La Liga too often, I think Rayo is a nice team to keep an eye out for, and hopefully with their manager Iraola, who's very young but really good. You can tell he'll be probably coaching bigger clubs in the near future. I mean, I think Rayo should be capable of saving themselves, but I don't think they will get that third win against Barcelona. Let's not forget that the last season's Barca was probably a very strange and bad season for us. We were going through this rebuilding process, I would say. And I mean, Rayo Vallecano deserve the wins. Let's not take that credit away from them. But I do think that Barca should be capable of getting a win in this one and breaking that 2-defeat streak you mentioned. All
right, so what score are you going for?
I'm just not sure if Rayo will score, but I'll go for 3-0.
3-0. Oh gosh, McCubs.
If we get the players registered, of course. Sorry. If not, maybe 2-0, 2-1 or something.
Interesting. It's funny. I was actually at the Vallecano game at the Camp Nou last season, and it was I mean, the first half performance was shocking from Barcelona. I never thought I'd see Sergi Busquets have like genuinely horrible game in the flesh. I was quite shocked. I mean, they improved in the second half. Though it was one of those games where, like, Barcelona, they definitely deserved to lose on the first half performance, but then just couldn't put their chances away in the second. I think Barca will edge this one. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. We filmed this on a Thursday, comes out on a Friday, so I don't know whether the situation will have changed. But yeah, it feels like the time's really running out to register those new players. But I think Barca will still have enough, won't they? I'm going to say 2-0.
2-0. I'm going to go 1-1. Why not?
Nice.
Back Rayo Vallecano. Absolutely love them. All right, that's it for Big Match predictions. Roman, while we've got you on quickly, I just wanted to ask a quick question to you. Which La Liga club do you think people should be following as maybe a dark horse this season? Who's caught your eye in the summer, who has an outside chance of maybe making a bit of a statement in La Liga this season?
Well, I honestly think it's going to be a bit similar to what we saw last season. I don't really see too many clubs coming from beneath. I do like Almeria because they do have a good financial backup, so I think they could do decently well coming up into the season. But it will mainly also depend on if they keep their striker Sadik, who was phenomenal in these last 2 seasons in the second division. And so if they keep him in Primera, I think he will be a very good prospect. And also maybe Espanyol. I like the new manager who's come in, who was the previous Granada manager who got them to Europa League and all that. So I think he could probably build a good squad there. And the usual Betis, I think they could make it to the Champions League this season. And Villarreal for me also are looking like a very strong squad also for this season.
Love that. Great spread of teams to follow there. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to see more of your stuff, Roman, where should they head to?
Yeah, basically you can follow us on Twitter. I'm working for La Liga Lowdown, so at La Liga Lowdown, or in my personal handle, which is Aeroslave with 2 E's at the end. Yes,
that'll be on screen for everyone to see. But yeah, we really appreciate you coming on today. McCubs, thank you to you as well as always. What should the EFD fan base go and check out now?
They should go and check out our explains. We actually had one on Barcelona and the kind of the levers and everything. Came out a couple of weeks ago. We had one on FD about 5 substitutions and whether it will change the Premier League this season, who it benefits. Does it benefit the big clubs or not? And then go and check out our Continental club from last week as well, where we did make our predictions for the season. Henry, was conveniently away for that for the second season in a row, so he hasn't had to put his neck on the line in that sense. But yeah, go check those out. And from myself as well, thanks so much, Román, for coming on. It was great to get your perspective.
Thank you.
Perfect. I echo those thoughts entirely. All right, cheers, guys. Subscribe to the channel, all that. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.